Oh, good. We can hear you too. All right. Well, why don't we get rolling then? Why don't I start? So let's see. What did I do since Friday? I reviewed a couple of Met Plus pull requests. One of them has to do with Jasmine tests for some JavaScript component that we have. Another is functionality regarding if a company revokes a job, we notify all the job seekers who have applied to that job through email as well as a pop-up on their screen. And so I did that. I also spent a significant amount of time actually standing up the Wiki EDU dashboard app. And I actually collaborated with Sage, who's the, I guess, project manager there, as well as chief cook and bottle washer with editing the setup file to insert a little bit of Mac specific stuff you got to do. So that was good. I think I've got it stood up now. It's a complex app, actually. It's got a lot of dependencies. And that was it for me. No blockers. So, who wants to go next? Laura, you want to go next, please?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I was hoping to present wireframes today. Unfortunately, due to client deliveries coming in before we close, I haven't been able to work on them again. So I'm hoping to have them ready for you by Wednesday. Today's just a bit crazy, so I'll have a bit of time tomorrow afternoon. I see that my pull request for Met Plus got merged in over the weekend, which is great.
Yep.
Sam, I saw that you were having a conversation with Johnny on my pull request about I can't remember him setting up another feature for his suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I'm just waiting for that to be merged in when you're happy.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Good.
And then that's it from me. No blockers.
Laura, just real quick, are you logged in on Slack right now? I don't see you there.
I am, but I'm having problems with my Slack on Windows.
Ah, okay.
I'm having problems with my computer, actually.
Got it. Okay. I'll look for you later. Let's see. Who's next? Sam, do you want to go next?
Sure. So on Friday, Michael and I started on trying to integrate the PayPal and Stripe payment mechanisms. As I've mentioned, we've got someone who's interested in sponsoring other premium members, but via PayPal. So we started on that refactoring. But then I was on to reviewing lots and lots of pull requests on different projects, particularly project scope. Yeah, and then I've been blogging about that this morning. In particular, the integration. There's actually some nice saves from the regression tests and some interesting things about technical debt there. I've got Armando pushing on another possible revenue stream related to project support for charities, which would further adjust the sort of the model of payment introducing new plans. So I'm sort of my main thing. I'm not really blocked. I'm just sort of torn between doing that and I think making the async voter support multiple channels, which that is kind of a block on, is holding back I think some projects. So anyway, yeah, that's me.
Okay. Oh. Again, that's enough, huh? Let's see, Michael.
Hey, here with Sam on Friday. Haven't really done much since then. Drinking peppermint tea.
You doing what today?
Your audio is very quiet, Michael. I don't know if Pat, you want to boost Michael's audio?
I don't know if I can do that.
Sorry, peppermint tea.
Peppermint tea. Oh, okay. Well, that was important for us to know, so I'm glad we got that. Sounds good, Michael. Thanks. Matt, would you like to go?
Oh, sure. Let's see. Website 1, I worked on a couple tickets. I think I completed the one for a user being able to inactivate himself. I moved the button onto the edit screen. So that's ready to review. And I'm working on the VC, the Twitter. The Twitter not tweeting if there's no video. and on Redeemify, we got a lot of people working on that. So I'm going to work on eventually putting in a new tab for the codes on website 1. That probably won't go into production for a while, but I figured I could start working on it now even. That's it, I think.
Okay, good. You've been busy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next, Tongwei, can you update us, please?
I have no update yet because still busy with my personal stuff. Hopefully I will catch up very soon. So, yeah.
Oh, that's no problem. This is like going to confession, right? Where you tell the priest, it has been 3 days since I worked on the project.
I know.
For my penance,
The
I will do-
guilt.
Yeah, I think it's 6 Hail Marys there. Yeah.
Exactly right. At least 6. No problem, Tongwei. We're just kidding. That's the update. Thomas.
Yes, that's exactly why I switched from Catholicism to Protestant. Because I never enjoyed going to
What you mean,
confession.
Thomas, is that's why you switched from Catholicism to Adventurism.
Oh yes, exactly.
Less guilt all around.
Yeah, so it always felt unnatural to sit in that booth and talk. But Scrum feels much better, I would say.
I think there's a blog entry here.
Don't get me started on Catholic priests. Anyways, I don't have much to report. Basically, just checking in with you guys. I've been working on my visualizer app a little bit this weekend. I have some. I've had some I've been fighting with Google Play dashboard. Getting apps uploaded to Google Play is not as well. It's not overly hard. It's actually easier than the App Store, but to update them is another issue. Lots of security things. So I'm fighting with that. I wrote a blog post about Cucumber, why I love it so much. Give it a read. Give it a star if you like it. If you don't give it a star. Well, not a star. It's a heart, actually.
It's a green heart, man. Yeah,
it's a green heart, which
I
is
think
very
I-
confusing. Yeah. But that's about me. Not much else to report.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I guess that's it for the stand-up, right on time. That's great. In terms of connecting up, I don't need to connect up this morning unless anybody needs anything from me. Anybody else need to connect up?
No, I'm good.
Good. Okay.
I need to talk to somebody about VCR and how we can record some Google API calls to simplify our tests, because my Spike is untested and I have no testing strategy. I don't even know where to begin, to be honest.
Right. Well, we could have a look at that. I was going to say, Matt, do you need input on that Twitter thing there for website 1?
Sorry, yeah. I suggested we wanted to refactor it, but it kind of would be a massive job because the Slack is written in the same way. Slack interface.
Yeah.
They're very similar, so I don't know if we should refactor one and not the other. Or...
Yeah. Well, why don't we try and get in a hangout at noon for website 1 and just have a quick coordination on the different things, because I think you're working on a couple of things, and maybe Michael will join us if he's free. Yeah, and I guess Tongwei, you're good. Yeah, you don't need to connect up with Pat or Lara. So I guess Thomas, do you want to tell us a bit more about your the issue that you're facing, and we can give you some input, maybe just in the end of the hangout. Go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I don't need. So again, I did this Spike, just to test stuff out, because I didn't know how to interact with the Google API, and I've come a long way, actually. So I know how to implement some stuff, but I'm thinking about testing. And I know, of course, I don't want to call the API over and over again, but I don't have much experience in I don't know if I should use VCR to record those answers and test for that or something like this. Just a little. I would need some pointers basically.
The basic rule is that VCR will handle the Ruby side, and if you're actually making a call through JavaScript in the browser side to a foreign API, you need something like Puffing Billy.
I know, but all of my stuff is happening on the server basically.
Yeah.
So then probably VCR would help if you want to do that kind of testing.
But so Thomas, what's the you say Google API, but which Google API in particular?
The Google Analytics API.
But there's the Google. All right, so this is the visualizer project, and it's the Google Analytics API.
Yeah.
And so the current thing, you've got the stuff running on the server, and it's basically reaching out. And are you using a gem to hit the Google Analytics? Like, is there a Google Analytics gem that you're using, or are you opening HTTP requests directly?
No, so not directly, but I'm not using a Google Analytics gem. I'm using the Google API, a wrapper for the Google API, basically. It's a gem. But I can use it for multiple APIs within the Google sphere. So
are you using a key, some kind of key? I imagine.
Yeah.
So what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure that you. Sometimes the responses from the servers can be naughty in that they'll tell you what your key is, or your URL will encode the key. And in VCR, so you obviously with VCR you're gonna put all those cassettes in version control, right, and put them on GitHub. Right. So you don't want to be checking your key in any form into that, right?
No,
for security reasons. And so there's a setting in VCR that you want to make sure. Sam and I have had this issue before. You basically want to structure it so that you have that setting correctly set, so that scrubbing that key out of your cassettes before you commit them.
Okay, all right. So that's an interesting.
If you are using VCR, but I think what you also just said before there, Thomas, is that you're using not specifically a Google Analytics wrapper, but you're using a wrapper for the Google API. So that wrapper for the Google API is something that you wrote yourself. It's a library.
No, it's a gem.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing is that VCR is one way to go.
Like the gem may have a testing gem itself.
That was what I was exactly about to say. Yes.
There may be a testing gem. Okay.
The exact parallel with the Stripe Ruby mock. So with Stripe, we can sit it all and use VCR and have the sandbox, or as you did in Craft Academy, you can use the Stripe Ruby mock to stub it like closer. And I think that the interesting question there will be, like, you could try VCR because that will kind of be simpler and it will make your tests more realistic in the first instance, and it can just record everything. Then there's things to watch out for, like Michael says, that like you might have secrets stored in there. But then even then, the management of the VCR files becomes, depending upon the level of thing, can become really challenging. And so it's kind of, you want to, like, if there's a really good mocking gem, like, or mocking support for that particular Google API gem, then that would be a good go. If there's not, then maybe give VCR a try and see how you find managing all the files, because it creates a lot of files.
Yeah, so that's the problem here, that I have not found a good way to mock those calls, basically. So I'm just going to paste in chat the link to that particular gem that I'm using.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a Google API wrapper. Exactly. So I haven't found any mocks for that, in my research.
You could mock it directly. It depends how convoluted its usage is, like how well it's designed is. It might be quite easy to mock it directly.
Okay.
So you just any test, you could, like, it's doing. I mean, I'm just looking here at. If I just share my screen, I'm just looking here at this page, like basic usage. So in any situation here where it's like setting up, if this is happening in your app code, then you can stub the appropriate points to ultimately, when it says drive get file and then return the thing.
Right, but then you're gonna have to create your own. Basically, you're gonna end up creating your own fixtures.
Right, exactly. So depending upon the level of convolution, like if it ends up being like really hard work to do that, because, and we look at here, it's like we've got to create a drive file, and then you know, without getting into too much, and then there's all these sorts of calls. So I've often in the past, I've been more on the VCR side and just like slap VCR in there and run it, get a recording and move on. Although, you know, I'm starting to lean back towards mocking as we got into, you know, the VC, particularly Puffing Billy has got some, but if you're just VCR, maybe that'll work. Yeah.
So the objects I'm getting back, as you know, after my call are made, are quite complex. So for instance, for the traffic. So the thing is that for every report I'm generating, I need to make like 5 or 7 different API calls, because in order I have to make some queries to get the specific data, right? And that the objects that are being returned to me are not JSON objects, how you would expect, but rather like some properties contain other objects, that are parts of the defined in the wrapper, basically. So I was leaning toward I'm more used to work with JSON responses from an API, and that would be more convenient for me actually, and it's easier to I find it easier to create fixtures with pure JSON rather than a set of nested objects, basically. So, but okay. But what I would appreciate is there a good walkthrough how to set up VCR? I've worked in projects where VCR has been used, but I never actually worked directly myself. Is there?
I think the README for the VCR is pretty good. Like it just kind of goes, and I think I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's then setting up with Cucumber. I think you shouldn't have too much trouble just going from the.
Maybe if you looked at one of our gems that we did, Project Scope would help, just to get an idea. Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah, we've got we did VCR on like a whole series of little things. Although the gems are all RSpec. Did you want to use Cucumber or RSpec?
That's another question. So because basically, the thing about acceptance tests in this one, see what I do is that I make a series of queries to the API, and then I use the results to generate images that then I later combine into one large PNG, and I deliver the result as a PNG file. So to be honest, I don't even know what to test for. If this was a PDF, I know how to access the contents of a PDF and check for but this is a graphical file. So it's like it's hard for me to figure out how I should write acceptance tests, because one test is just I do this and then a PNG is generated. Well, that's a no-brainer. But it doesn't.
No, we understand, Thomas, and I think Michael's probably just about to say is what we did on the Project Scope various things is we use SVG format, and then you can test specifically and actually I would encourage you to generate SVGs rather than PNGs.
Well, rather, even whether you're generating an SVG or a PNG, kind of a test is just a specific case, right? So what I did with the SVGs actually for a lot of the tests is I generated them and then just simply looked at them and said, well, that looks right.
Yeah.
And then I copied that to basically a fixture folder, and then said, basically asserted that the contents were the same. So I'm not sure though how you can. I guess there's probably a way to assert that the contents of files are equivalent.
Well, I think we do that. We do that already, Michael, in the Project Scope. We check like the two files have the same thing. I think the big advantage is that whereas like you could be asserting that two PNGs had exactly the same hash thing, but that's kind of ridiculous because like whatever. But the SVGs, I think you'll find, Thomas, like I was. Did you see what I was showing the other day for the
it's great.
And then you mouse over, like it gives you a lot more control of the individual things. So you can do all the same stuff that you could do for generating a PNG if you generate SVG, but then it's kind of like it looks like an XML document. you know, and you get a lot of
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
functionality. So,
But are you using Image Magic for this, or how do you generate those SVGs?
well, you can just generate the XML in the appropriate style,
So
and there's
you just
like
can generate it with ERB, which is built into
Right.
Ruby, or I found a gem that's being used in one of the projects called RASM, I think, RASEM. That
I'm gonna
generates
drop out
SVG.
now. I'll see people at the
DSL.
Keep on talking. Good conversation.
RASM,
RASEM. It's
Yeah,
a gem that basically is like a DSL for generating SVG figures.
Okay.
All
right.
Let me show you. I just sent you a message.
Okay. On
Slack.
There we go. Yes. Yes. 23. Okay. All right. I'll check it out. So my problem is that.
And then I sent you another message. That's the RASM DSL. See if you click on that, you'll see. Basically, it's very Ruby-esque, declarative.
Okay. So I'm. Let me just, if you have a second here, I can share my screen and just show you the interface that I'm building, and just explain. Well, there you are. So the thing that I'm building is something like this. That so. If I just connect to my Google API, to my Google account, right, and I want to generate a report for website 1, for instance, right?
Right.
So this is what happens. Yeah, like we are generating this report, okay? So but what actually happens first is that this little line graph is generated, this pie chart is generated, and as separate files, and then they are rendered together into one file. We are putting some text on it and stuff. The thing is that in order to generate those graphs, I'm using a library called Graph, which with some presets basically, and that I modify.
Is that a Ruby library?
That's a Ruby library, yeah.
Okay.
GRUFF. And that saves me shitloads of time, basically, because I can generate a basic graph, and you just set the transparent background on it, and
so that's an SVG. That's where you're getting the PNG from, right?
Yeah.
When I researched this area for Armando and Sam, Sam had really pushed me to do SVG, and there isn't a lot of actual good libraries for it. Also, I think there's one old library, but it had a GPL license, which we didn't really like. So that was an issue, but I ended up basically just writing logic. It wasn't that complicated to create a graph.
No, but the thing is that in my case, for instance, I generate the line graphs and some of the stuff. They are fairly complicated because we could end up with graphs that have very few, for some week you can have like almost no traffic at all, and then you can deal with hundreds and thousands of hits. And what you want to do is build a general graph, basically,
like a logarithmic graph, right?
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to avoid, basically. But perhaps it's not. So there's a trade-off. What I'm saying is, like, should I have total control and render SVGs in order for us to be able to
I mean, where are you storing the
You know,
SVG? Generate.
Well, at the moment we're just installing it locally, you know, but we will
Like
store
on
this
on a file system.
Yeah, on the file, but we will store this, you know, in the cloud basically when we go live with
Like
with the thing.
S2 or whatever. So
S3, yeah.
S3, yeah. We had gone with SVG because it could just be like if you have SVG, it's literally just HTML, XML.
Yeah, you can store it in the database if you like,
database,
you know, or whatever.
Yeah. So that was like the big
No,
win
I
with
totally understand that. So I was thinking about that avenue, but you know, in terms of limited resources, we want to, you know,
right.
prototype this as fast as we can. You know, so that's a bit of a trade-off. Although, you know, that now that I think of it, about in terms of testing, you know, before we actually invoke the R magic, which is the gem that we use to put all of this together. You know, we have a series of method calls. You know, we call the API, then we do stuff to the raw data, because, you know, the API returns some results, and then we do stuff to it. Like, for instance, this text where you see that your site attracted blah 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 visitors this week, and that's something decreased compared to the week before, right? So that what we do is that we ask for 2 weeks, then we process that data, we split it up in 2 separate arrays, and, you know, we do a comparison and stuff like that. So we can definitely go in and test that these kind of methods are working. You know, that's on a unit test level. But I have hard time at this point to switch to a totally different engine for generating those results, just because they you know, the path that I've chosen at the moment is not testable. You know what I mean? Because it gives me so much for free. But I'll consider every angle. I'll try to figure something out. But for the you know, the way I see it at the moment, the acceptance tests for the image itself is probably not going to be a priority, but rather everything around this, like the delivery. You know, we want to be able to deliver the reports by email or by Slack integrations and stuff like that, right? So I think we're going to go for that.
I mean, what you can do, like I said, is you can just fixturize your images. Then the downside of that is when you make a little change, they could break.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small change.
Which is the way they you know, if we look at Graph, which is the gem I use to generate those graphs, when you have a look at how they test, they basically, you know, I don't see any assertions in their specs, basically. You know what I mean? They just generate those, and then probably, as you say, manually, you know, look at them and say if they're good or not.
Yeah, I mean, literally, you can. I'm sure there's a way to just read the file and assert that the 2 files are equivalent.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, like I wrote something else. Like we did a. You know, this little software that we wrote for AV 102 certificates, that you know, the course that we deliver through edX. We expanded on that in Craft Academy, and we could write acceptance tests. So we generate a certificate, and then we can read the PDF file, and you know, they are rendered as PDFs, right? So we can read the PDF and assert that certain values were in the PDF. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like what you can do is you can have your files, your tests generate your files, write them out to a fixture folder, and then just have like an HTML file sitting somewhere in the top level directory that reads them in. And basically your test just like writes those files out, and then you just open the HTML and look at it. Like literally just eyeball it.
But the biggest problem that I have is still I don't have an output here because I haven't used that server. Let's see, where are we? But you know, but basically the whatever my unit specs are the problem, I would say, because whatever we get back from the from Google contains different objects in itself. So, for instance, here I was writing a generator spec. So what I need in my test is this array of results, and then I need a start date and end date, right? And so I just picked certain parts of the response that I'm getting from Google, and as you see, we are getting this as different type of objects, and I'm using doubles here, basically, and this is quite tedious. So in order for me to replicate the look and feel of every object that I'm getting as a response is going to take some time. So that's why I was thinking about recording that. That's why I asked about the VCR usage. But I have a look at that. Basically. It's open source, guys. It's open source. So if you want to, play around with this, even though it's not an Agile Ventures project, but
where is it at?
It's at Craft Academy. So it's a spike. So I can send you a link to the code. Visualizer. Yeah, here it is. But again, so this version is something that I just basically played around with and me and Lara worked on it, so, and it's deployed to the internet, to Heroku, on this address, if you want to have a look. So we're thinking about making this a bit of a product later on, but we're still going to open source the code base, basically. Okay. All right. Thank you for all the input, Michael. Patrick, you had a question.
Yeah, just when you get a chance, you had mentioned at one point you've worked on moving away from Selenium test to Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if you could just point me at things I could look at on the internets to help me do that, because I want to get off of Selenium if possible.
So I remember I pulled down the MetPlus project and I ran some stuff, and I was able to set everything up in Poltergeist, actually. I mean, from what I saw, you guys were on the exactly right track to use it. So there are shitloads of resources, but it's always easier to here, if you have a specific problem, then I can probably help you fix it.
Okay, I'll do that. I had played with it. I found 4 tests that failed when I moved to Poltergeist. The rest of Selenium, at least on one pass, all pass. So I'll take that approach then. I'll reach out to you if I get a sticking point then.
Yeah, it's easier, and then we can set up a hangout, and work together. It's always easier for me to be asked to join a hangout, and I probably can just push everything aside and code a little bit, because I like that. I like coding.
That's why we're here.
Exactly. Well, I have a company to run, so I have some administrative shit to take care of as well, which I hate.
I'll bet. Okay, yeah. Thanks. We'll do.
Yeah. But so if anybody's interested in this visualizer project, I welcome any contributions. There's a pivotal tracker now and shit like that, so we can get this off the ground.
I like the visuals. They look pretty good. Did Laura do that? You and Laura?
No, that would be Thomas.
Thomas, it's nice.
What is the
visuals?
You mean, thanks. Well, so I had Lara in the project, so I actually tried to impress her. That's why
I'm impressed. Okay. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Thank you very much. Then my goal is achieved. All right, we seem to have some middleman issues here, so I have to go. Talk to you guys.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody. I'll drop too.
Bye.
Bye.